a phrase that has marked many days. Often, her swift departures prompt me to manage the household and indulge in some snack plans, like today's shopping and cooking curry occasionally falls through due to her sudden preoccupations. Such broken assurances were common during my upbringing, and though initially disheartening, I learned not to anchor my expectations to her promises. Dad, in contrast, made commitments rooted in reliability rather than uncertainty. As time passed, my attachment to my father deepened. His dependability and trustworthiness shaped my perspective. This affection extended to the point where I yearned to be a part of his company. Being the sole child, the desire to inherit his legacy took root upon graduating from university. I pursued this aspiration, admiring the values he instilled in me at 20. My father initiated our outings for drinks, which proved enlightening for me. Meanwhile, my mother's involvement remained surface level. Her interventions solely pertained to my college years ago. A pivotal moment was when I expressed my intention to join my father's business post-graduation. Despite my diligent preparation, her perspective mirrored traditional norms advocating for women to rely on capable husbands. This emblematic exchange showcased her limitations, preventing further conversation. This encounter reaffirmed my resolve to be an independent woman, distinct from my mother's trajectory throughout my college journey. I strived to foster self-sufficiency. After graduating, I realized my ambition of working at my father's firm. Although unable to sway my mother's views, she ultimately conceded her parting words, accepting my chosen path, and implied that I would bear many consequences. Thus, as I embarked on my professional journey under my father's tutelage, our bond deepened while the divide between my mother and me widened. In retrospect, her discomfort with my choices became apparent. My father's meticulous training wasn't without reason. He was battling an illness. After about 6 months, he dedicated his time to introducing me to numerous individuals and educating me about the intricacies of the job. However, during this period, my father collapsed at our workplace. Swiftly, an ambulance transported him to the hospital. For the subsequent 5 years, his life became a struggle against his ailment. "Amy, how is the company performing? Can it function smoothly in your father's absence?" My mother inquired, and though it's an arduous phase, everyone is rallying behind me. "I have been entrusted with everything I require, and I'm confident we'll succeed." I responded, hoping that Dad's trust would sustain us, still considering the company's legacy. "I hope that a woman at the helm as the second generation won't lead it to ruin." My mother warned that my determination was unwavering. "I'm prepared for that responsibility. Your concerns seem more about others' opinions than the company's well-being." These disagreements with my mother were recurrent after my father's collapse. Despite his weakening state, he continued to visit the company during his better days. His final visit bore a solemn message. "This company and its employees are my cherished treasures. However, I must release my hold on them. Amy, over these years, I've observed your efforts. I believe I can entrust this to you. Can you protect this place and all those here for me?" Though uncertain if I could emulate his capabilities, I vowed to grow closer to the man I had always admired. "Rest assured, Dad, I'll strive to be more like you." I promised that following this poignant moment, the mantle of leadership was passed to me. The subsequent years were a whirlwind of responsibilities, scarcely allowing me time to return home. My visits to the hospital became frequent as my father's condition deteriorated regrettably. My mother's involvement remained minimal even in his time of need. His illness seemed to inconvenience her. This disparity in their attitudes perplexed me. Her lack of emotion or gratitude towards him saddened me. I couldn't help but pity my father, recalling his devotion to me during my childhood when my mother's love had been absent. Even amidst my demanding tasks, I prioritized visiting him. This routine endured for a year until he eventually passed away in his sleep. My mourning was often put on hold due to the demands of the situation. Meanwhile, my mother, unfamiliar with the practicalities, expected me to handle everything from funeral arrangements to administrative procedures. "Are you settled now after the funeral?" My mother asked the day after the ceremony. "Do you request that you vacate this house with an inheritance of 200 million yen? I have no use for you anymore." She declared that my response was anticipated. Dialogue with her seemed futile. Could she really find contentment in a life of leisure, supported solely by money? I couldn't help but ponder her lack of empathy for my father, the man who had sacrificed so much. With numerous questions swirling in my mind, I resolved to depart the next day. A call to a service helped me liquidate all possessions associated with me remarkably. Swiftly organizing my departure, my mother was taken aback, but I harbored a secret from her, a secret that explained her erroneous claim of inheriting 200 million yen. All financial matters had been entrusted to me by my father, and rightfully I was the sole inheritor. Not a single yen remained for my mother. This stipulation was firmly made when my father was in good health. He acknowledged her lack of financial acumen and entrusted me with her monthly expenses. When faced with a significant sum, my father predicted her proclivity for reckless spending to handle potential disputes. He gave me an SD card containing a video message addressed to her, though I never intended to show it. Recent events suggested the day might come after my departure. My mother's prompt contact surprised me. She implored me to return home immediately. Skeptical of her intentions, I headed back with the SD card in hand. As I arrived, she immediately accused me of absconding with my father's inheritance. I handed her the SD card in a quiet response to her accusations. Upon viewing the video, her attitude shifted from accusation to curiosity. I demonstrated its contents on my laptop. My father was in better times, leaving the room. I pondered how my mother would respond back in the room. I found her in tears, a sight I had never witnessed before. Witnessing her cry over a video of my late father was inexplicable. His words seemed to have reached her. Beyond the veil of his passing, a lingering curiosity about the video's content dawned on me. Yet I refrained from watching it myself. "Mom, are you all right?" I inquired, concerned for her well-being. She managed to respond by assuring me that she would adhere to my father's instructions and entrust everything to me. From that point on, for the day she requested that I return home, "Call me again when you've cooled down." She requested that I interpret her wish as an effort to shield her vulnerability from my gaze. Consequently, I promptly departed for home that day. I wondered about the silence that ensued. Almost a month elapsed without any communication from my mother. Concerned, I decided to visit their house during my lunch break, but she wasn't home that day. I returned in the evening to find the lights on, which alleviated my worries. "Sorry for dropping in unexpectedly. I came earlier, but you weren't here, and I got worried," I explained upon seeing my mother, and she responded, "I apologize. I was out for my part-time job during the day, and this revelation baffled me." My perception of my mother was that of someone who would never work. How had things come to this point? "Did you watch the video?" "It was a video letter meant for you," I inquired, and her response was to hand me the SD card back at the office. I settled at my father's desk and played the video as my father's words unfolded. His manner of speaking felt odd, then he uttered something shocking. "You've cared for Amy even though she isn't your child, and I'm grateful for your years of support, but in doing so, you've set aside your own dreams and reached this age without establishing your financial independence." The revelation left me speechless. I couldn't help but exclaim, "I'm not my mother's child." Suddenly, pieces of the puzzle fell into place. The pieces began to align, making sense of events that had previously baffled me. My father went on to explain how my mother had been supporting her life without making our marriage official. He had provided for her financially, hindering her from pursuing her own aspirations. "Once I'm gone, you'll face difficulties. I've unintentionally taken your life away." The fluency with which my father revealed these truths was astonishing. Much of what he disclosed was entirely new to me. He delved into the past and shared his hopes for our future. The video's impact kept me awake throughout the night, grappling with its implications. The following day, I returned to my mother. "Mom, I watched my dad's video yesterday. I know everything now, and I admitted it." She responded with a blunt honesty. "I raised you because I was asked to," and all her words prompted me to question further what happened to my biological mother, and that's when my mother finally revealed the truth. My mother used to work at a diner, and my father would occasionally visit to eat. Back then, my mother was vibrant and diligent, nurturing a dream of owning her own diner. However, upon becoming my mother, she relinquished that aspiration. Encouraged by my father's reminder of her dream, she decided to rekindle it. She's currently undergoing training as a part-timer, striving to achieve her dream once again. I should have done this earlier. Working is fun and suits me. My mother admitted her previous decision to give up working was influenced by her challenges with child rearing. Regretful of the circumstances, she continued, "I never thought this day would come when I could have a conversation like this with my daughter at this juncture in my life." I began to comprehend my mother better. Subsequent conversations paved the way for us to decide to use the money left behind by my father to support the opening of her own diner as she embarked on this venture. I witnessed a newfound humility in her demeanor, a trait she never exhibited before. She hesitated when discussing financial matters, a change from the past while maintaining my regular job. I also lent a hand in preparing for her diner's opening. This led to an increased frequency of interactions with my mother. She insisted on managing her living expenses independently, not relying on my father's inheritance. "Promise me you'll let me know if you're struggling. Dad trusted me to take care of you." I emphasized that I'll manage fine on my own. "It's not that expensive." This mutual support and collaboration marked a turning point as we gradually evolved into a genuine family. With the passage of the years, we had truly become a family. She might not be my birth mother, but the timing seemed right for me to acknowledge her. As such, "Your diner is opening tomorrow, fulfill your dream." I encouraged her. Observing her hard work and determination, I was reminded of my own dreams from my younger days. I recognized that our progress was a tribute to both her and my late father. In the wake of his passing, the truth was revealed. I embraced this reality and resolved to move forward with my mother as my sole family member. Observing her concern for my dietary habits due to my lack of cooking skills, I contemplated returning to our hometown to live with her again. It was evident that my father's absence had brought us closer. With his home company and inheritance all that he left behind, I was determined to safeguard them. We visited the graves of my father, my biological mother, and my mother's older sister. These visits became a way to share updates on our daily lives. After undergoing the adoption process, I finally became officially registered as my mother's daughter. Despite not being biologically related, our bond had transcended blood ties, solidifying our status as a genuine family.